Hello ladies and gentlemen, Nick here and welcome to my review of Doctor Who Series 4 Episode 7, The Unicorn and the Wasp. I used to really like this episode. I used to love this episode. Not 10 out of 10 territory, but I used to love it around the 9 out of 10 score, but following this rewatch, I don't dislike it, I do like it still, but I do have a few issues with it. I will say though, as a normal Doctor Who story, it's really good. But as a Doctor Who murder mystery story, it's just good. Um, the the plot sees the Doctor and Donna arrive at a house in 1926, and the party hosted by the house owner, Lady Edison, played by I can't remember her name, Felicity Kendall. Yeah, Felicity Kendall, of The Good Life fame, who, by the way, played the character who was married to a character played by Richard Burton, who appeared in Paradise Towers. Anyway, Lady Edison is holding a garden party for some friends when the Doctor and Donna turn up, and they decide to join the party and meet Agatha Christie. It turns out that the day of the party is the day Agatha Christie disappears. So it's a mystery story, a solve a historical mystery story where why did Agatha Christie disappear for 10 days and turn up in the hotel in Harrogate? I don't exactly know where this party is taking place. It could be in the Cotswold for all I know, or maybe it's in Yorkshire, which would explain how she got to Harrogate, or maybe it's in Wales. No, it's probably not Wales, though they might have filmed in Wales. However, one of the guests, Professor Peach, is discovered by the housemaid to be murdered, and the Doctor soon realizes that the murderer is in fact an alien. So that's basically the setup for the plot. So the Doctor and Agatha Christie have to interview the guests whilst Donna Noble goes investigating upstairs, and it's soon revealed, well, we know from the very start, but she soon finds that the alien is in fact a massive giant wasp. And when she says a giant wasp, she doesn't mean giant, she means flipping enormous. Look at the size of its sting in the shots of the episode. There is some great direction here, by the way. I think it's Graham Harper again. I might be wrong directing this episode. So he does another great job with it. But the investigation as we go through and everything, the story is trying to be like an Agatha Christie murder mystery, and it's trying to be a homage to those. It's written by Gareth Roberts. Again, if you feel uncomfortable about watching a review about a Gareth Roberts episode, you'd be free to go. But anyway, but like Shakespeare Code, this one is trying to be a homage to Agatha Christie stories and name dropping and referencing a few stories. And there's a reference to Last of the Time Lords where the Doctor's saying he mentioned her the other day and said that he bets she's fantastic. And also there's a couple of references to Runaway Bride as well, so that's pretty cool. However, where this episode fails is actually committing to being a Agatha Christie murder mystery style mystery, or even just a plain old murder mystery full stop, because it cheats. There is lots of clues that the audience doesn't even see, let alone pick up on. The Doctor and Agatha Christie just find or work out information concerning the people in the household that the audience never sees. The closest we get is the maiden word maiden on a piece of paper that Professor Peach was looking at, and the theft equipment by the Unicorn. Oh yeah, there's a jewel thief called the Unicorn who's here for some reason. Hence the title, The Unicorn and the Wasp. I suppose it's trying to sound like a Agatha Christie style title, but the Unicorn really didn't need to be here. We'll get onto them in a bit, but this story cheats with the clues that the Doctor and Agatha Christie work out. There just seems to be a big jump from when the Doctor's convincing Agatha that she can do it, she can solve the murder, to actually solving the murder. And all the secrets of the household. There is just so many jumps. There's a few clues to pick up on earlier on, but not everything. You should really at least let the audience into some sort of investigation. And the reveal scene at the end of the episode actually starts at the 27-minute mark. The last act is more focused on the Vespiform reveal rather than actually resolving the murder. I mean, you got the Bomber's murder resolvement scene, how it's all played out, but once that's passed, it's more focused on the Vespiform or Agatha Christie, and you can't have your cake and eat it at the same time if that cake has a giant stinger pointing out at the top of it and you're trying to eat it top first. There's a few pieces missing that not only did the audience not see, but the Doctor and Agatha would not have worked out the whole thing without a few more clues. There's something missing. There's a few things missing. At least with the Colonel, it was quite funny where Agatha Christie was building up the suspense of his secrets, and he revealed that he could walk only, and why he was still in a wheelchair, only for Agatha Christie to then go, "Oh, actually, I was going to say you were completely innocent," and that was a very funny bit. That was brilliant. But how did she work out Robina Redmond, or rather, her impersonator, was in fact the Unicorn, and how did they work out? Lady Edison was reading an Agatha Christie novel on the same night the Reverend had his church break-in. How did they work out some of this stuff? There's some bits that make sense, like obviously Lady Edison knows about the Vespiform, and the Doctor could detect that when she said it can't be at dinner. But um, how did how did the Doctor know that the jewel belonged to the Vespiform unless he recognised it? But he never mentioned it. And why weren't we alluded into some of this plot points earlier on? Yeah, the whole fact that she hid in a room for 6 months could imply a pregnancy out of marriage. And Robina Redmond's impersonator, aka the Unicorn, because it's not the real Robina Redmond, she's the Unicorn impersonating Robina Redmond. I'll just call him the Unicorn, but um, how did they know that Robina Redmond was an imposter and it was the Unicorn impersonating her? How did they work that out? Did they know it was right underneath her window? How did they know it was her window? It's just some things that are missing. It's actually more focused on the Doctor getting poisoned than it is actually trying to find and solve some murders. And at least the murders themselves actually make sense. Professor Peach's hit on the lead piping, even though we see a shot of the Vespiform first of all, which in between all that, which doesn't really make sense. And Miss Chandrakala, the housemaid, is crushed by a stone dropped by the Vespiform, and then Roger, the son, is the Lady Edson and the Colonel's son, is then stabbed with a butter knife. Although the motives behind these murders, well, Professor Peach almost found the truth. He pretty much found the truth, so the murderer had to kill him. I'm not so sure for the housemaid or Roger, maybe because the housemaid knew, and because Roger was Lady Edison's son. But apart from the fact that it's part of their little game, they see the world as a big murder mystery after getting telepathicness from Lady Edison reading the novel. The Vespiform just decided to kill some people, and there we go. Oh, and by the way, the Vicar turns out to be the murderer. That was actually pretty well handled. It's just a shame that the clues weren't there. Well, apart from some bits of dialogue from earlier on in the episode, which actually do tie in pretty well. But half the clues for these revelations were never seen, nor do we see the Doctor or Agatha Christie work it out. It just jumps from the Doctor, like I said earlier, jumping from the bit where he's convincing her to solve the mystery, to the bit where they actually solve the mystery. They miss a few bits. Like I said, it's more focused on the Doctor getting poisoned rather than anything. So it just feels, maybe if this episode was an hour, maybe we could have gotten a few more clues. But it misses some stuff. It misses a few things. And then the last act is very dedicated to the Vespiform chasing Agatha, who has the Firestone, and Donna throws it into the lake at the very end. So the Vespiform goes off after it and drowns itself. It does attach its a psychic link to Agatha, but it does eventually let her go, and that's how she has amnesia and forgets about what happened at this time, and everybody moves on. Ah, boy. Okay, so the Unicorn and the Wasp, it's not the Agatha Christie homage it's trying to be. It cheats, as Mr. TARDIS Review said in his new series ranking video. But I think if it did reveal or let the audience join into some of the mystery solving and for those bits, it would have made a bit more sense. I did watch the deleted scenes of this episode just to be on the safe side, because I also knew about the original opening and closing parts of the story, how it originally opened and ended with an old actor in her bed dying, and she's talking to a nurse about trying to solve her own mystery, and then the Doctor and Donna then turn up at the end to talk to her about it. By the way, if this story was shown in 2017, 18, 19, or 20, and those two scenes were included in the episode, there'd be people complaining just at the sight of a black woman appearing in the episode, just because, yeah, we've got people like that who just have a problem with women, people of colour, different ethnicity, and religion, maybe even of different ages, being on television full stop for some reason. I mean, it's not like it's not been a thing for the last century or so, but yeah, some people are just idiots. I mean, if you got reasonable criticisms about their characters or the actors portraying them, fair enough. But the fact that because they're women, black or different color, different ethnicity, different religion or different age, that's a no-fly zone. That is not tolerated. So thank goodness this episode came out in 2008, and it was probably for the best that those scenes were cut to avoid certain people's unwarranted hatred for doing absolutely nothing apart from existing. Yeah, we still got some Nazis in this universe. And I'm not talking about the Daleks. Actually, the Daleks are better. Honest, at least honest. Anyway, going back to the deleted scenes, they're pretty good. But I think the episode does work as it is without them. It does work pretty well. Also, none of the deleted scenes actually help with any of the mystery solving or clue solving. The closest we get is the Doctor going into the TARDIS to analyze the Vesperform liquid, which they mentioned in the episode he had done, or at least he'd done some sciencey stuff anyway. But there isn't really anything to indicate any clues towards who could be the murderer or the unicorn or the secrets behind this stuff. It basically, what I was talking about earlier, well, how they cheated. So the deleted scenes don't have that. So either they didn't get to page, or they were removed from the scripts before it went to camera, or those scenes haven't been released. But this is series 4. I think they've got, if not all the deleted scenes, they've got most of the deleted scenes on the DVD. So there wouldn't be an excuse if there wasn't if they weren't on there. Okay, that's the plot, but what about the execution? Well, like I said, it's once again handled brilliantly. The characters are pretty great. The acting is really great, including Felicity Jones of Rogue One and The Theory of Everything fame. She does a great job as Rubina Redmond, aka the Unicorn. And also Christopher Benjamin from Inferno and the talented Wang Chiang. You may remember him as Mr. Henry Jago, who would go on to reprise that character in Big Finish 2 years after this story came along. He does a great job as the Colonel. He's really fun and really enjoyable. Now we just need Trevor Baxter to come back. Oh wait, he's dead. That was a cross sign there. P.S. My religion is the Church of England, which is a Christian religion subsidiary. It's part of the Christian faith. But yeah, I did the cross because honouring Trevor Baxter. But like I said, acting is pretty good, and I think apart from the stuff that skips, the story is pretty good. But I think there's quite a bit of the murder mystery angle that was jumped just so that we can get to the climax quicker. Which means that it doesn't quite succeed in being a successful murder mystery story if they cheat. They basically cheat. And I hate to say this, but I did used to love this story. Maybe not quite 10 out of 10 actually, like I said at the start. But I thought it was a very good story. But now, because the story sort of cheats in its murder mystery storytelling, or even just as a story, basically, as a mystery story, or just a plain story, it cheats with its revelations. I can't enjoy it as much anymore. And B, there was another Doctor Who murder mystery story back in the classic series that was also set in the 1920s. It didn't have any aliens. It was a pure historical, the last pure historical on record in the TV series, and a fifth Doctor story called Black Orchid in season 19. You might have heard of it. I've already reviewed it, so go check that out. But despite episode 1 of that 2-part story, so it's basically only 5 minutes longer than this one, and there wasn't a huge amount of murder mystery stuff there. The murder came at the very end, and then it was more of a case of mistaken identity in the second episode before they had to confront the actual killer. But, and I hate to say this because I really enjoyed Unicorn and the Wasp, and Black Orchid wasn't as big of a murder mystery story as this one, at least in design. It took until the end of episode 1 for the killing, and it only had another episode to wrap it up. But Black Orchid did it better. I mean, maybe the whole setup was done better here, but the way it was handled, it didn't cheat. It only had it only had an episode to actually have the mystery, but well, an episode and a bit, but it didn't cheat with its clues and information. It did hide some information, but it was revealed later on. This story cheats. This one has information the Doctor and Agatha provide that no one noticed earlier on. I don't think were even in the episode, because they're because it just comes out of nowhere. It's just stuff they've worked out, but the audience hasn't been let in. And only a few clues have been found that would help them in such a thing. It doesn't quite work. Another 5 minutes might have revealed a few more things, or maybe if it was an hour, it might have been better. But on the whole, the Unicorn and the Wasp cheats, and that is disappointing. It's a good Doctor Who story, but it does not work as a good murder mystery story, or even just a plain mystery story. Even the whole historical mystery about Agatha Christie disappearing the murder mystery part and the alien part are vital to that. So without that extra bit, it undermines the historical mystery element of the story, as well as the murder mystery story and the alien stuff as well. This story cheats. Fair and simple. It's good, but it cheats. So I'm going to be giving the Unicorn and the Wasp a 7 out of 10. Yeah, it's a good Doctor Who story, but it fails at being a good murder mystery story when it cheats. And it can't, like I said, it can't even work as a good historical mystery story because of that. And the same with the alien involvement stuff. There's some good stuff earlier on, but when you skip some of the stuff, because the audience aren't allowed to see the Doctor and Agatha work things out with both clues that they found and clues that they didn't find, but still somehow worked out some things for the people. And somehow the clues that they did find, some of them tied in with some secrets and revelations, and they were spot on. Maybe if there was another murder, maybe that could have spiced some things up a bit. Maybe one of the staff members, like Miss Chandrahala. But ultimately, the story, it's a good Doctor Who story, but it fails at being a good murder mystery story, or even just a plain mystery story. Which is disappointing, especially as I used to really enjoy this episode, and its closest example in Doctor Who, Black Orchid, it wasn't quite the same. It did something similar, but not quite. But despite having shorter time to do it in a different method, it was actually handled slightly better. At least it was honest with its audience. It didn't cheat. It at least was honest with its short amount of time. Here, it cheats, and that is disappointing. I do like the final scene of the broadcast episode, though. That was a very good bit, and a nice nod to Shakespeare Code with the Caronites. But yeah, overall, Unicorn and the Wasp is good, but I think it could have been a hell of a lot better. But oh well, never mind. At least it wasn't a bad story. It wasn't even meh. It was good, but I think it could have been a lot better. Okay, the next story is Science in the Library, Forest of the Dead. Again, Doctor Who took a week off for Eurovision this year round. It was only series 3 and 4. So they took the week off between Unicorn and the Wasp and Science in the Library. So hopefully when we come back for Science in the Library and Forest of the Dead, Stephen Moffat will knock it out of the park for a 4th time. Hopefully, fingers crossed. And we should be back on form after the meh Doctor's Daughter and the good but should have been a hell of a lot better The Unicorn and the Wasp. Especially as I used to love that story, as I keep mentioning. But after that being a bit disappointing and cheating, but still good, and the meh, and I almost couldn't decide what to do with it, Doctor's Daughter, hopefully Science in the Library and Forest of the Dead will put the series back on track. Well, this is the story that pretty much cemented Stephen Moffat as the successor showrunner, so it should be at least good, shouldn't it? I'll see you guys next time for Science in the Library and Forest of the Dead. Goodbye. Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the official Nicholas Payne Retro YouTube channel.